So if it's human rights crime to try to combat global warming by diverting 100 million tons of biofuels, what is it that we take 7.58 times as much and feed it to farmed animals for what? It's a palate preference, and it's driving up the cost of food. Gandhi said probably 20 of the most powerful things that were ever said, 20 of the most profound things that were ever said. One of the things Gandhi said, he said, think of the face of the poorest person you've ever met and ask yourself if the action you contemplate will be of use to that person. I like that as a concept. Think of the face of the poorest person you've ever met and ask yourself if the action you contemplate will be of use to that person. The latest United Nations statistic is that 987 million people are living in what the UN calls nutritional deficit. Nutritional deficit. It's a euphemism. They're starving to death. Almost 1 billion people, 1 in 7 human beings on the globe, is currently starving to death. And about 40 to 60 million people do die every single year from starvation-related causes. So when we're eating something that requires 10 to 20 times the resources of something else, that has a direct impact on people in the developing world who are literally dying for want of any food at all. And I didn't even talk about soy. The global soy crop is about 220 million metric tons. More than 95% of it is fed to farmed animals. So you can compound, none of it goes into biofuels. So you can take that 7.56 million metric tons, add another 210 million metric tons, and you've got something about 9 times the human rights crime in the meat industry than is the biofuels industry. About a year and a half ago, Greenpeace unveiled this banner in the Amazon rainforest. You can't see it, but people are about this big. So it's a massive banner in the Amazon rainforest. It says KFC Amazon criminal, because KFC is directly responsible for chopping down the rainforest in order to grow soy in order to feed chickens. So 100 million metric tons. I mean, this was it for me. 22 years ago, I adopted a vegan diet purely on this basis. And I went around really quite, growing up in Oklahoma, what do you eat if not meat and dairy? So I lived on oatmeal for quite a while until I figured out what else I could eat. One of the things that I discovered when I adopted a vegan diet 22 years ago, I was playing football and running cross country. I got into cross country in order to be better at football, but I kind of sucked at both. And but one of the things in Oklahoma, if you're a bad football player, they let you come to the two-a-days and they pound on you, and then you sit on the bench and feel bad about yourself during the games. And nobody cares because they're not going to possibly lose in order for you to have a little bit more self-esteem. But if you lost the game, it'd be even worse. The thing about cross-country is that no matter how slow and pathetic you are, you can letter in it. And so you can walk around the mall in your letter jacket, even though you're a pathetic athlete like I was. So I kept with cross-country. And when I adopted a vegan diet, my cross-country time dropped. I've been running cross-country for, I guess, about 4 or 5 years at that point. And my cross-country time dropped from pathetic to less pathetic, but by more than 10% in the course of a few months. And it had to do with the fact that I was working with my physiology rather than against my physiology. Some people will tell you that humans are natural carnivores or that we're omnivores. We're omnivores by the way we live our lives, but we're not omnivores physiologically. Physiologically, human beings are herbivores. There's an article by a nutritionist with the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine that really does a great job of looking at this issue. And it looks at human physiology and compares it to the physiology of herbivores and the physiology of animals, carnivores who eat much meat. And across about 20 different areas, human beings are exactly what the herbivores are and are not at all what the carnivores are. So we have a very long digestive tract relative to the length of our bodies, whereas every natural carnivore, every natural meat eater has a very short digestive tract to get rotting flesh in and out very, very quickly. Every natural carnivore has about 10 times the hydrochloric acid in their stomachs that we do. And this one is also intuitive. If you're driving down the road and you see a dead animal on the side of the road, most people, the reaction of most human beings is either, oh, dead animal if you're animal sympathetic, or, ugh, a dead animal if you're not. or maybe some combination of both, right? You're either revolted or you're sad about the animal getting, run over. Very few people, anybody in here, see a dead animal on the side of the road and go, Anybody in here have the I'm really hungry response to roadkill? Okay, a few people. But by and large, the human body is designed to say, hey, that's disgusting, don't eat that, it could kill you. At some point we learned, hey, if we cook this, it won't make us sick, right? But we're the only species of animal that has to cook meat for the meat not to kill us. And in fact, in the New York Times today, there are about 8 different articles about how unsafe the meat, 8 different letters about how unsafe the meat supply is in the United States. Of the developed world, we have the most unsafe meat supply of all of the countries in the developed world. We have the only Department of Agriculture that can't order a recall. And the New York Times did a massive expose about this on Sunday, looking at the foodborne pathogens that do, in fact, according to the CDC, kill about 5,000 people a year, hospitalize about 300,000 people a year, and make tens of millions of people sick every year, the U.S. meat supply. So humans and beings are not naturally carnivorous. And that's the reason the American Dietetic Association, they just reaffirmed on the basis of all of the science that's ever been done. They looked at all of it and they just reaffirmed this year their position paper on vegetarian diets. And what they say is that nobody needs to eat meat, dairy, or eggs to survive. Literally nobody. The blood type diet is pseudoscience, which has been backed up by a sum total of this many peer-reviewed scientific articles. The Atkins diet has this many scientific articles to indicate that it works at beyond a year. But the number of articles that indicate that vegetarians have lower rates of heart disease, lower rates of cancer, lower rates of stroke, lower rates of diabetes, lower rates of obesity are in the hundreds, which is why the ADA was willing, the American Dietetic Association, to stake its reputation on the fact that vegetarians are healthier than meat eaters and that everybody can do it. The one slide I have on this, meat eaters have 3 times the obesity rate of vegetarians, and meat eaters have 9 times the obesity rate of vegans. And in fact, the one diet that has ever been shown in peer-reviewed science to allow people to lose weight and keep the weight off in 5 years is a low-fat, completely vegetarian diet. For the Atkins diet, at 5 years, everybody who goes on it is fatter than when they went on the diet in the first place. And in the case of some very famous Atkins dieters, Al Gore and Bill Clinton, they end up the butt of late-night jokes because Al Gore, after going on the Atkins diet, ballooned to the size of a small whale. Bill Clinton ended up getting triple bypass surgery, which is why the American Heart Association calls the Atkins diet the make yourself sick diet. The more animal products you eat, the less healthy you will be. And I haven't quite figured out a good segue for this slide, but I just like it. Anyway, the health argument for veganism isn't exactly a moral argument, but it does say that if you care about the environment, the only reason you would be eating meat is because you like it. It's certainly not good for you. If you care about global poverty, the only reason you could be eating meat is because you like it. It's certainly not good for you. So for those 2 reasons, even if you don't care about animals, a vegan diet is a moral imperative. So I've been a vegan for 5 or 6 years before I even got the animal component. I was running the largest soup kitchen in Washington, D.C. for about 6 years before I came to work at PETA and a homeless shelter for families. Was loosely affiliated with the Catholic Church. And I've been there for years when I came across this book called Christianity and the Rights of Animals by an Anglican theologian and professor of theology at Oxford University. And his argument is pretty ecumenical. It's for people of any religion or no religion. He puts it in sort of Christian terms, but I think it makes sense to really anybody who's trying to lead an ethical life. And it's pretty simple. He says, ethical people, people of integrity, when we have a choice between doing something that adds to the level of cruelty in the world or something that adds to the level of compassion in the world, every single time, ethical people choose compassion.